Good evening to one and all. The School of Ancient Wisdom is happy to welcome all of you to yet another learning session this evening. We thank you for your participation and welcome all of you in the ongoing webinar series. As always, we would like to begin with our school prayer. O hidden light, vibrant in every atom, O hidden light, shining in every creature, O hidden love, embracing all in oneness, may each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. Thank you. Today we have with us Mr. Yogeshvar. With the grace of his gurus, he has a decent level of expertise in the practice and teaching of traditional yoga and facilitating self-knowledge in the light of the teachings of Vedanta. So we thank you very much for your valuable time and truly appreciate it, sir. We now hand over this forum to Mr. Yogeshwar to engage us for the next 1 hour and request him to share his knowledge and insights with us. Thank you.
Okay. We begin with the Mangalacharanam. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah Harihi Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Good. So, we were discussing as part of the concept of Nista, abidance in spiritual knowledge, we started to discuss the concept of Charya. Charya means basically owning up the spiritual tradition. I would put it as owning up. Charya actually means walking the path of our the path of our acharyas, of the tradition, the lifestyle practices, adopting the symbols, the dress, etc. Right? So the group that are very famous for Charya are usually the Hare Krishna, very world famous there. So they are absolutely non-compromising when it comes to Charya, when it comes to completely owning up the parampara, to owning up the thing. So they are like a benchmark for that. They're really good, very dedicated, and they are not shy, and they don't mince words. They are very focused and very committed to Charya in a very non-compromising level, right? So that's what I'm talking about, Charya. But I would like to translate the word Charya as owning up of the tradition, owning up my commitment to the source of spiritual knowledge. I will put it. Owning up my commitment to my spiritual support system. The spiritual, it's not just knowledge, no. It is knowledge, the accessories to knowledge, and the different factors that contribute to my becoming available for the knowledge. So Nishtha is basically my body, my mind, my prana, my buddhi, my ego structure, everything becomes available for the knowledge. So that for the spiritual knowledge, for the reality of the spiritual dimension. So this is what is Nishtha. Right? So it is not that I get some kind of an enlightenment and then I'm practicing the enlightenment and in all the levels. It's not that. Because we are not beginning with enlightenment. We are beginning with ignorance. We are beginning with habit patterns. We are beginning with different levels of helplessness. We are beginning with a host of obstacles that prevent us from even recognizing the spiritual goal, the spiritual means to the goal, to the exclusion of every doubt. Complete clarity, completely clear recognition without any kind of doubt the spiritual goal and the means to achieve the spiritual goal. Right? So, even for that, we have trouble, we have all kinds of obstacles, we have all kinds of things to disturb our Shraddha. Right? So, in this situation, we are beginning the spiritual journey. This is the situation, this is the reality, ground reality from which we are beginning our spiritual journey. So each one in different levels, but this is what it is. So when we begin from there, Charya becomes like the analogy I gave you in the last class, like a young sapling of a plant that is about to grow. It might be the great banyan tree, but when it is about to grow, as a young sapling, it needs a fence, it needs protection, it needs watering, nourishment, and all that. And then it is able to grow its roots and then grow up also as a. And as much as the plant grows above, so much is required the strength of the roots. There is a story. There was a person who was having. There were two plants. There was like a gardener who wanted to teach his son. So that boy was having a plant. So so what he did was, there was one plant which was just there, which was not very well taken care of. Just once in a while, he used to pour a little bit water and things like that. There was this other plant. He showed his son, see, we have these two plants. And there was other plant for which he gave a lot of water and a lot of nourishment and all that. But there was no challenges. So there was this other plant which was given very less water, just enough to survive, but not too comfortably. The plant had to struggle to get its nutrition. So that component of struggle, was there in the plant one, but in the plant two, there was no opportunity for struggle. Everything was provided, and it was not, it was also in a kind of a shallow ground. So after some time, after let us say after a couple of years, you see the other plant which was given challenges to grow, while being given only just minimum nourishment, but it had a lot of challenges to face. That plant had not grown that great, but it has grown. That plant also grew. And the plant which was given a lot of nutrition and a lot of water and everything was made, it grew a lot. I mean, it grew very big and, it's very bright and big, and it was very flourishing to see. And then there was a storm. When the storm came, this big, well-grown plant, well-nourished plant, it fell down. While the other plant, which had to face a lot of challenges, it stood its ground. Then they found out, then he called his kid, and the gardener showed the son. See, this one stood the storm, this did not stand the storm. You know why? And then he showed, see the length of the roots. And then he showed for the other plant how deep the roots are going. So because of the challenges, the other plant could, sink its roots very deep because it has to find the nutrition. Why? Because the plant had no confusion. The plant has no confusion whether to go. It has no choice whether to grow or not. You throw a challenge, the plant is going to find ways to go and reach the nutrition. It has to grow its roots to grab the nutrition that it requires. So it spent all its energy in making the roots very strong. So once the roots are strong, when the nourishment comes, immediately it is able to take in the maximum. Right? So similarly, when we are talking about Charya, this Charya is the root, right? If you visualize our spirituality as a growing plant, with Shraddha and Charya, these are the roots. Charya means the commitment in terms of behavior, belongingness, the Sangha, where you belong, and how you behave, and how much you are able to own up your spiritual commitment at the level of physical action. So that is Charya. Physical action, using your body, using your time, using our different factors in our lifestyle, everything should aligning our external life to our spiritual goal. This is China, right? So I'm not telling it has to be like this and it has to be like that, but with this, in discussion with the teacher, whoever is guiding you, you can decide how you can do. There are certain recommendations in the tradition. There are certain recommendations in the spiritual school that you are learning. And so based on the recommendations, for example, if you are a Shaivite, you are recommended to wear a Rudraksha. If you are a Vaishnavite, you are recommended to wear a Tulasi Mala. And according to no matter which Masha or which school you belong, or according to which tradition you belong, you are asked to decorate your forehead with a certain symbol. Even in, there are texts like Nadamuni Yoga Rahasya, and then he says, after the yogi has taken shower and finished his anushthanam, and after wearing the symbol of his tradition, then the person sits to practice yoga. It comes. So even in yoga, this comes. The basics are always intact, right? So charya is basically owning up at the action level, whatever is the spiritual commitment and the spiritual support system, owning up the symbols of the spiritual support system, belonging to the spiritual support system in terms of action, in terms of how we live, in terms of behavior, in terms of lifestyle, in everything we learn and we accustom ourselves to belong to the spiritual support system that is going to guide us in our life. So this is charya. So what this is, because the beauty is when we are doing this, we will encounter a lot of resistance. We have a fantastic opportunity. We are going to have wonderful challenges, both from inside us, like how they say, Adhyatmika, Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika. Thankfully, there will be no Adi Daivika challenge for this, because the nature is always supporting this. There is going to be challenges from inside us in terms of, I like it, I don't like it, I prefer it, or it's like, there are these kids in the house, they say, Appa, why are you asking me to wear kumkum today? I'm wearing a jeans and a t-shirt. Kumkum doesn't go with the jeans and the t-shirt. So the girl goes and finds what, that nano dot. You need a microscope to look at that bindi. So they find one, or she'll find some this decorative bindi or something, and then try to put that with a lot of coercing and with a lot of negotiation and with a lot of arguments and the sulking face. The girl will go and bring one small micro dot somewhere in the forehead. You have to see that with a microscope. So you can convince to that much, That's because it doesn't go with that. Then my friends will tease me, or these are these kind of external challenges. Then our internal challenges, it's like this kind of preferences. Then external challenges, we may not be in the society it's getting very polarized. Either you are going to be in a group that is very, very supportive of your spiritual commitment, or you are going to be in a group that is very dismissive of your spiritual commitment. This is going to happen more and more in the coming days. Or you will be in or you will be in a place that it's very rare actually to go in a truly inclusive space where all kinds of lifestyle are equally appreciated and accommodated and respected. That kind of a truly inclusive spaces are very, very less. It's very few. It's not much. But usually most of the places are polarized. And those who are talking, especially the left liberal kind of people, those who are talking about inclusiveness, they are the ones who are the most exclusive and dismissive of people who are owning up the spiritual commitment in their behavior and lifestyle. So this, when it is coming to Nishta, owning up your belongingness to the spiritual support system that nourishes you and gives you inputs both culturally and in behavior and in action is a huge challenge. And we have to start with that. When we start with that, what happens is we are constantly confronting the different inner challenges that we have. So, but no matter what we feel, no matter what challenge we have in Charya, the Nishta in Charya is at the action level, I am going to stay committed to this, whether it is comfortable or not comfortable, whether I like it or I don't like it, whether I am accommodated and appreciated in my immediate social circle or not. I'm going to stick to this. If you do that, two things happen. One, we develop a huge resilience to stay on our path, to stay on the conscious choice that you have made. You develop a huge resilience to all kinds of external disturbances and coercions, and you'll be able to stay committed to the whatever is the conscious spiritual commitment that we have taken up. We'll be able to stay committed to that, and it gets deeper and deeper, and we are the challenges are constant. And when we decide not to negotiate, when we make Sharia as non-negotiable, then what happens is we have an opportunity to educate ourselves. We have an opportunity to question why we are doing that. When we are not, then we say, no, I am not clear, I am not very sure about this, I don't like it, I don't think, I feel that this is all not required. We can just have it in our heart and why should we show off? This is all these kind of arguments, fantastic arguments will come. The more educated we are, the more sophisticated arguments will come. So at that time, what we have is we can do more study. We can study the Shastra more, we can study the tradition more, and try to find out what is the real spirit behind the Charya. So there are two ways. When we are committed, when we are trying to own up that spiritual support system to which we belong, the one of the main things is following the actions and behavior in letter. There are recommendations given. Following the recommendations in letter, that is one level. Following the recommendations in spirit is another level. So initially, as an enthusiast, we might tend to follow it to the letter because we are yet to understand the spirit. That's all right. It is better to follow it in the letter than not to follow it neither in spirit nor in letter. If you are able to follow it in spirit, wonderful. If you are not able to understand the spirit of it, until we understand the spirit of a charya, a behavior, a rule, or an injunction, until we understand that, we can just follow it to the letter and keep looking for trying to understand the real spirit through our satsangas, through discussions with the gurus, through study of the Shastra, etc. We can try to understand the spirit behind the rules. Now, why are we wearing a tilakam? Why do we have to do anushthanam during sunrise and sunset? So why do we have to eat sattvic food? Why do we have to wear only certain kind of clothes and try to avoid certain kind of clothes? Why we are discouraged from taking intoxicants? Like this, there are so many, I will not take intoxicants. A simple thing would be in any kind of, unless you are into some Vamachara Tantra, there also there is no indulgence. There is conversion of the indulgence into worship. The beauty of Vamachara Tantra is that you are converting your desires and indulgences and connecting that force with the deity. So even there, the Charya is very important. And the rules are more strict. For a beginner, there are more rules, and only as the practitioner becomes more and more advanced in the Kaula Marga, etc., the rules are getting relaxed. But in the beginning level, the rules are very high. So no matter where you are, there are certain universal things like, don't take intoxicants, do not use, try to avoid meat, or try to eat sattvic food, and try to do fasting on certain days, and do some seva for the deity or the temple or the matha or for the gurus, and for some kind of, try to do something like a yajna, a selfless activity that contributes to the support system. I will put it like that. A selfless activity that contributes to the spiritual support system. If you are belonging to an ashram and you are learning in that ashram, not just go there, throw your money for a course, learn something and come back and and then then don't bother about it. No, If you have some free time, see if you can devote a certain proportion of your free time to go and do some seva in the place. Or if there is if there is a teacher, then see what you can try to keep in touch and see how you can make the teacher certain deity. Let us say, if you like, let us say, if I like Lord Shiva, see, I can see if I can keep a Banalinga in the house and do Abhishekam, or a Shiva Panchayatana Puja, or a small altar. Can I set up an altar and try to maintain it well? These are all charya. And every time before going to my work, before leaving the house, I spend a minute in the altar. And after coming back into my home or my room, I wash my hands, feet, mouth, and then spend a few minutes in front of the altar and do a ritualistic worship. Like it's very simple. You don't have to do a lot. So like this, we include a certain activities, very less, just one or two things we include like a discipline. We keep repeating that, doing that every day. So, like this. So there was this, there is the famous story about this, this is called Anushtana. It has a lot of bhalam, it gives a lot of power. So when we do this, one, we are having an opportunity to clarify our doubts and build up the clarity and try to understand the spirit of what we are doing. And as we understand the spirit of what we are doing, we will become more and more flexible in an intelligent way that is both useful for us and accommodating for others. So it is not that you become, you can see somebody who are just freshly started on it, like, these vegans, for example. This is one thing I see with vegans a lot. Once they become a vegan, they are, for some time, they are very militant actually. So whoever is even drinking milk, they will almost kill this person in an argument. So this is usually seen among vegans. And also in ashrams, we can see that, there is a person who comes and joins a community first. In the initial enthusiasm, the person will be very, very absolutist. It has to be like this, like that, very, very linear and very less flexible, and will not be able to accommodate certain aberrations here and there, will not be able to accommodate certain difficulties for others. He wants everything to be on the spot. So this is a very typical thing which we can see in a novice. So if you feel like there's nothing wrong, but and if you see somebody like this, we don't have to dismiss them. They just need time to inculcate or to understand and accommodate the spirit of a charya, of a rule. Right. So until they understand the spirit of the rule, it is better to be rigid and follow than to be flexible and without understanding the spirit. When you are trying to make it flexible and accommodate anybody and everybody's opinion in your charya, what happens is we don't have the opportunity to develop the consistency, to develop the gather our energies and the consistency, and we are not able to develop what is called as the Anushtana Balam. So when you are committed to certain behavior and lifestyle and everything, it creates a vibrational protection around us. It creates a certain, it makes us tune to certain energies. There are different kinds of, everything around us is different kind of frequencies. So when we are committing, when we are trying to own up our spiritual support system, we are trying to own up our commitment to the spiritual support system, our relationship with the spiritual support system. Just like how, for example, when somebody is married, they have a ring. They don't remove the ring. In India, we have Mangal Sutra. That in every movie, in Indian movie, you will see they will take this Mangal Sutra and put in the eyes and do some puja for that. It's a huge sentiment. It is a symbol for marriage. Right? So similarly, for a Brahmana or for a Dvija, anybody, the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, you have this Upanayanam, you have this Poonal, this thread, this Upavitam. You don't remove that until you take sannyasa or you are dead. Even if you want to change it, you put the new one and then remove the other one. It's a huge commitment. It's not like wearing that. It's you have to make sure that it is clean, otherwise it's going to stink. So we have to keep it clean. And similarly, if you have a shika, you have to maintain the shika. It's not easy. So, and the shika doesn't go with all kinds of hairstyles. So we will have to sacrifice certain hairstyles. So no, whatever it is, even not even in religious things, in everyday, in even secular everyday things, laukika, secular things, we own up. If there is a marriage, we have this ring, right? So like that, if you go to an office, if you go to a school or a college, there is a uniform. So the moment, and if you are in, for example, if you are in a police or in a uniform services like police or military, there is a uniform, there is a turnout. So you have to be in a certain way, and then they wear all those badges. So these symbols and rituals reinforce our commitment because our mind is external. Our mind is operating only through the senses. Unless you are somebody who is in a laya, yoga laya, your mind is only outside. And through the behavior, our behavior and our interaction and the way we manifest our sankalpa in behavior and action, it programs our attitude. So they say, for example, you have body posture. Say, can you come on, you are sulking so much. Let us say you are confident. Come on, how are you going to be confident? Stay confident. Make a confident posture. Somebody tells, what will you do? You will say, confident posture. Yes, I am confident. Now, chest up, chin up, and you are like confident. This means confident, right? And similarly, when we are concentrating on something, when we are very keen on something, we are like this. We come a little forward, or we wake up. So we are, let us say we are, listening to a lecture, lounging back like this, yeah, playing with the hand. And then suddenly there is a very important point that strikes a chord inside you very deeply, and immediately what do you do? Huh? You come up like this. It's saying something. Immediately you wake up. That is called awakening of the prana. The moment you are become very alert and conscious and awake, you come up and you make yourself straight. Correct? So if I want to become conscious and awake in a situation, all I have to do is to make my body straight and take a deep breath and keep my chest up, and then it will build up the background attitude. So if I modify my behavior, through modifying the behavior, I can modify my attitude. So this is one of the things that what they do in what is very famous these days, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. So these are the principles they are using. For example, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, he says, when you are faced with the different obstacles for the practice of samadhi, vitarka badane, pratipaksha bhavanam, consider and practice the opposite commitment. It is not just, I'm interpreting it for our context right now. Pratipaksha bhavanam is not just in imagination, not just in thinking. It is also in behavior. It is also in, you feel very stingy. You don't, you feel very stingy and excessively attached to your possessions. Practice charity. Just, you don't feel like giving, man, you can't share, this is mine. If you are very stingy, you don't feel like sharing, you feel like grabbing everything. Make it a point to do a charity every day. Every day, I will do one small charity to somebody from whom I have nothing to gain, some completely anonymous person, anonymous situation, I will do a charity. Every time I gain money, so much I will give for some Annadanam or Go Seva or, making, sponsoring some poor child education, something or the other, whichever I feel connected to, or I will give it to the spiritual, something to contribute to the spiritual support system that I'm connected with. So I practice charity. If I find myself stingy, if there are people calling me stingy, I recognize that I am stingy. Stingy attitude and spiritual growth doesn't go together. Then I practice charity. I don't feel like sharing, but I keep sharing, whether I like it or not. It's a discipline. Keep on doing, and one fine morning, suddenly I will feel like, I will start feeling the joy of charity. Then what happens? That is a sign that my background attitude has changed. The continuous reinforcing through behavior, reinforcing an attitude through behavior. Creating a context for developing a clarity through a behavior that challenges my perception, my worldviews, my habitual thinking. So in Charya, there's a lot of things. It gives you a chance to reinforce attitude. It gives us a chance to, it constantly challenges our personal opinions and our personal fancies. Why do we have to challenge the personal fancy? Because it is a process of moving from the whole point of Charya, that is in behavior, and aligning our behavior and actions according to the standards given by the spiritual system that we belong to, that supports the spiritual support system and the tradition that we belong to, aligning our actions and our attitudes and our thinking according to the recommendations and the standards given by that system. So, why is it required? Because when we are learning from the Vedika Sampradaya, from this Vedic tradition, or anything that is connected to the Vedic tradition, we are constantly moving from what we call technically as moving from Jiva Srishti to Ishvara Srishti. So this is the main point. What is the point of Charya? Is aligning, I told you, right? All our actions tune us to different kind of vibrational fields, etc. So what is the vibrational field and all that? It basically aligning, tuning our energies to the universal reality, making our energies more and more available, making our unconscious mind more and more available for the objective universal spiritual reality that is around us. In other words, it is called Ishvara. In Vedanta, we say Ishvara. So, all this universe with its laws of with its scientific, physical laws, chemical laws, psychological laws, and its spiritual laws, the psychic laws, all this entire universe, which goes according to a law and order and the rhythm. No, they say Rhythm Satyam Param Brahma. So I think probably the English word rhythm has come from this rhythm. No, this truth in action. What is that? Is the objective reality and the laws and the principles that are out there that are not dependent on our personal preferences. The objective reality that is not dependent on our personal preferences, that is Ishvara Srishti. There are different orders. For example, there is an astronomical order, there is a sunrise and sunset. There are these waxing and waning experience of the moon. Then there is movement of the stars and the constellations. And then there are rhythms of the movements of planet, interconnectedness of the different planetary rhythms. So this is what, when we are tuning our sense of time, for example, when we are tuning our sense of time to the rhythms of the nature, then we tune our thinking and what we want to do and our actions. We are learning more and more to be observant and available for the objective reality. A very simple thing, like seeing the Panchanga. Planning our actions according to the almanac. This is one thing we have in our culture. It is still there in many houses, but slowly what happens is we are losing touch with it. For example, this program, we are saying Monday, Tuesday, right? So this Monday, Tuesday, where did it come from? Is it based on a human convention or is it based on any universal rhythm of nature? What is based on universal rhythm of nature? Tithi could be based on universal rhythm of nature. The first phase of Amavasya, Pratama, Dvitiya, Tritiya. So like that is there. And then there is a recommendation in the Shastra that on Ashtami you should not teach. On Ashtami certain things should not be done. On Amavasya certain things should not be done. On Paurnami certain things should not be done. Like that we have on Ekadasi certain things should be done, should not be done. On Dwadasi some things should not be done. Like that we have a lot of rules. Right? So these are all based on the knowledge of the vibrations and the rhythms, the subtle, the sukshma, we say, the rhythms in the sukshma prapancham, that is the rhythms in the subtle world around us, they are constantly affecting our unconscious mind and our personal rhythms. Our personal unconscious rhythms based on our life force and our inner vibrations are constantly in interaction, whether we like it or not, whether we know it or not, in constant interaction with the rhythms outside. That is why sometimes certain tasks are easier to be done, sometimes certain tasks are more difficult to be done. They say, for example, there is one discipline in yoga called Swara Yoga. They say you can do certain actions when your breath is on the right nostril, you can do certain actions when the breath is on the left nostril, but when you keep changing that, it will create more disharmony and more struggle. So if you want to minimize struggle and bring more harmony and success in the actions, these actions are recommended when your breath is flowing in the right nostril. These actions are recommended when your breath is flowing in the left nostril. Swara Yoga. And also there is the alignment between the swaras. What time of the day, which swara should be going. There is one huge Shiva Swarodaya. There is a text. If you take that, you will see what is the relevance between our breathing rhythms and the different rhythms outside. So similarly, scale of time. The spiritual way of seeing time would be calculating the day from sunrise to sunset and then from sunset to sunrise. It's called Jamam, different Jamams. So the puja in the temples are happening according to that. And then we have Tithi and the actions to be done and not to be done based on the Tithi. But we completely lost that. Maybe one thing we can do is to tune our time according to some kind of a spiritual standard. Instead of this, so I was telling about Jiva Srishti, right? So when we tune to a spiritual standard, we are coming close to the universal rhythms of this that are around us, which are centered on the universal consciousness, which is also called as God or Ishvara. So we are getting close to Ishvara Srishti. When we are tuning more into our likes and dislikes and more into the simple human conventions that are based on mutual agreement, there's nothing wrong in that. That is also required. We need to have a mutually understandable language. Now, if I meet somebody from another who has no clue about this Panchangam, I say, no, I will meet you on a Krishna Paksha Tritiya. That person will be like, what? What Krishna Paksha Tritiya? Then I have to give a whole class on what is Krishna Paksha, what is Tritiya. It's a problem. So I say, okay, I will meet you on this month. Next week, Tuesday or Wednesday, I will meet. And the person understands. Common, okay. But when I decide when to do that meeting, I can think based and plan based on the Panchanga. I don't have to think and plan based on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's a very small thing. I'll tell you, if you start doing this, you find it extremely difficult. I find it extremely difficult. For example, today I did not see Panchanga because there is nothing big to do. I have to do this class anyway. So I wanted to see the Panchangam before the class to say, now let us ask, if you ask ourselves, how many of us know today's Tithi and today's Nakshatra or, whatever the Karna or, what, if not, at least the Tithi, what Paksha and what Tithi it is. How many of us know? If we ask ourselves, then I have to see that. So I myself did not check, you see. So much we are caught in the personal human reality, what we call as Jiva Srishti. Jiva Srishti means a personal reality created by our own minds and convention that need not, it could be sometimes by chance, that need not be based on any natural rhythm. January 1st, New Year, is it connected to any natural rhythm? Nothing. It is spiritually and astronomically meaningless to start a new year on January 1. But it is socially meaningful. Everybody agrees. So it is a transactional, in the society level, it is meaningful. But spiritually, it may not be meaningful beyond the point of being nice to others. Other than that, it is not in the terms of vibration, in terms of mystic reality of being in tune with the universe. January 1 is not in any way a new year. But if you go for a January 14 of Makara Sankranti, or if you go for the solar new year, Ugadi, and our Tamil solar new year, these kind of things, there is some kind of relevance. It is connected with the constellations, it is connected with the movement of the sun and the moon, which also influence our subtle rhythms. Now, it's more spiritually meaningful. What I'm trying to say. For example, today is Shukla Paksha Tritiya. it's good to take the class. But if today is let us say Ashtami, if today is Ashtami, we are not supposed to have this class. You cannot teach on Ashtami. That is what Shastra says. They say on uh, on Amavasya, in Pratama, if you teach, I think Vidya Nasham, I don't know which one, it is bad for the teacher. And on Amavasya or Paurnami, if you teach, it is bad for the student. And on Ashtami, if you teach, it is the destruction of the Vidya. So they say, at least, even if the student or teacher gets affected, it's all right, but the Vidya should not be lost. So on Ashtami, one should not teach. So that's the thing. So even if they miss Amavasya, Pratama, etc., generally traditional ashrams and all that, they don't have classes on Ashtami. In Rishikesh, my Guruji's classes, he always gives the leave only on Ashtami. That much he follows. But for everything else, he follows normal Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, he books on that. But suppose if we have to travel, we have something important, then we, which is, they say, oh my God, they'll say, oh my God, you believe in all these things, these superstitions? You can say, yes, I believe in all these superstitions, so keep going. You don't have to make the other person convinced. One of the things in Charya we can do is not get into arguments with the person who does not share your Shraddha. So, Nishta. Now, we are talking about Charya. We talked about how important it is to move from Jiva Srishti, the individual reality, to Ishvara Srishti, the spiritual reality. Right? One. Objective reality. From the human projected reality to objective reality that is centered on the universal intelligence or Ishvara or God. This knowledge is supposed to be given from your spiritual support system, or it is available in the Vedic Dharma. There are different kinds of panchangams are there. You can choose anything, and that is based on planetary movements, for example. Right? Some kind of a rhythm. Sometimes, or you can tune your activities based on your swara, internal reality. If you are a yogi, you can tune based on your swara. But yogi is also looking around this, looking at the tithi. A normal person looks at the tithi, nakshatra, varam, and all that, lagna, etc. You don't have to go really deep, maybe just tithi. But a yogi looks at tithi, vara, nakshatra, etc., and also his own swara on top of that. So when he is looking at the internal rhythm, it is not to the exclusion of the external rhythm. It is the external rhythm plus the internal rhythm. So he is in fact even more sophisticated than the Charya person. So when you become from a Charya to Kriya, there are 4 levels they say, Charya, Kriya, Yoga, Jnana. So when you move from Charya to Kriya and then to Yoga, you are not becoming, you are not making more excuses. In fact, you are adding layers to it. You are adding like a first floor, second floor, third floor, like that. You are adding layers to your spiritual building. So it's not that when the tree becomes taller, it leaves the roots. As the tree grows taller, the roots go deeper. Right? So Charya is automatically taken care when we go with the higher levels. So Charya. Here, one of the things that is required for our Nishta, when we want to bridge the gap between our reality, our attitudes, and what is expected or what we understand is expected of us in our commitment to the belongingness and to the spiritual support system that we belong to, our commitment to the spiritual support system that we belong to in terms of behavior and actions, which is Charya. So when we are in that, when we want to be established in that, when we want to bridge the gap in that, one of the main thing is to avoid arguments with people who do not share our Shraddha. Just try to cut short the conversation or shift the topic and go somewhere else, or just say, please, I don't want to discuss this and keep moving. Because logic, right? See, logic is a tool. Logic always follows our Shraddha. We discussed this in one of the classes. I think right in the very first class we discussed about Vijnanamaya Kosha. Shraddha is the head, Ritam and Satyam are the 2 wings, and all that we discussed. I think it is in this class. So what happens is what is our inner commitment? Whatever we are committed to at the emotional level and at the attitude level and at the ego structure level, at the very fundamental level where we are committed to, that commitment directs the flow of our logic. It's called mata. Whatever is my deeply formed opinion and commitment, whatever I have surrendered my ego to inside me, that directs my logic. Suppose if I have surrendered to my desire, if my desire has overridden my intellect, what I will do is I will create all kinds of logic. I will create all kinds of arguments to justify my desire. All of us have seen that. So similarly, if you have Shraddha in a certain Sampradaya, in a Parampara, somebody comes from another group, either they don't believe, they're agnostic atheist, or they belong to some other religion or whatever, they come and tell you and start arguing and making you, try to convince you otherwise, or question the validity of your commitment. The question the validity of your spiritual support system or your guru or your shastra. We don't have to engage in that conversation for two reasons. One, we both belong to two different Shraddha. My Shraddha is different, that person's Shraddha is different. So he or she is going to use the logic according to their Shraddha, and I am going to use the logic according to my Shraddha. But if I am a beginner, I have not really arrived at a very deep understanding of how things work here and what is what. My tools for argument are not strong enough. I am just following it as a discipline. I am yet to understand the principles and I am yet to do some study. I am yet to understand the principles and the logic and the rationale behind many of my practices. So what I do is I avoid that argument. I don't argue because I understand that this kind of person with a very strong logic based on some other Shraddha, with an intent for Vitandavadam, with an intent for dismissing what I am doing, he comes with a malicious intent. Simply because they cannot tolerate it, simply because they accommodate it, or they don't like it, or whatever, they want to dismiss my standing. That is where they come from. So when they come from that, I don't have to discuss with them. I don't have to convince them to feel that what I'm doing is right. If that, if convincing them is essential for that relationship, I can get out of that relationship. I don't need that friendship, or I don't need that community, or I don't need to belong to that place. Or if I don't have any option, it is absolutely essential for my survival. I have to be in touch with that person. I have to look at his face every day. Then I try to be politically correct and take myself out of that and focus only on survival and try to keep that arguments away so that I continue, so that my Shraddha is not disturbed. And then probably I can spend more time in satsang and try to understand. This kind of, there is a logic called Stuna Nikumban Nyaya. That is when you are, when you want to fix a tent, for example, when you are burying a pillar, when you are planting a pillar, you have planted it, but you want to see how strong it is. How do you see that? How do you see if a pillar is strong? I grab the pillar and shake the pillar. They say, hey, don't shake the pillar, man, it will become loose. And if it becomes loose, then I dig more and make it stronger. The purpose is not to uproot the pillar, but the purpose is to see how strong it is and make more reinforcements and make it go deeper. In order to make it go deeper, somehow I shake it a little bit and hit on it a little more so that it goes deeper and you cannot, until it cannot be shaken anymore. Right? So this is the logic, shaking the pillar approach. So these kind of arguments and challenges, it might shake us a little bit, but that's only to show us how much we are rooted in our commitment, how much doubts we have, what are the inner challenges that we are facing that we need to overcome in order to bridge the gap in our charya. And then we go back to satsanga, to our study, etc. And also we do some, what is called as kriya, the different tapasya practices like japa, like puja, like pranayama, like meditation, contemplation, these kind of things, plus the study of the relevant scriptures, the books, etc., listening to discourses, having focused discussions with a teacher, with an expert in the subject, or with another Guru Bhai or somebody who's already deeply involved and who has internalized the teachings. With these kind of things, we make our commitment deeper and stronger, so that next time he comes, he cannot shake it. In the next argument, when we go, when somebody points out or something, you will have absolutely no problem. Your inner will be very stable, and you will know what response to give, and that doesn't cross and touch you in a, it doesn't intrude beyond a certain level. That means that your inner commitment is strong, and you are unruffled, and you feel very committed and stable inside. You don't have a problem. Like somebody comes and tells you, even if you face like even if you face very challenging situations in life, you will not question your basic spiritual commitment. You will not question the validity of the uh, knowledge, the spiritual knowledge given by the support system. So certain basics will be intact, and we will not question that. Right. So that stability, inner stability, for that, this charya or owning up our commitment and belongingness to the spiritual support system and the tradition that we belong to, where we are, from which we are learning, in which we are growing, to own up that in terms of symbols, in terms of actions, in terms of behavior, and in terms of everyday commitments in schedule, and in terms of making myself available in service, etc. With all that, I create the base that is required. I create the fence that is required for me to grow as a spiritual plant, into a massive. So for my spirituality the plant of my spirituality to grow and become a massive tree that is, that is able to bear fruit for the benefit of everybody. So this is the basic approach that we have. And today we discussed about how to bridge the gap in Charya, and what we can do about it, and what would be the approach, and the importance of Charya for the purpose of bridging the gap between my inner reality and the spiritual reality that I am trying to live up to. Like to bridge the gap between theory and practice. Charya, the role of Charya. That's what we have discussed today. With respect to this topic alone that we discussed, with respect to Charya, with respect to the challenges that you feel in owning up your spiritual commitment, symbolically in lifestyle and in actions, any questions you have, any challenges you have, we are open to discuss in the next 10 minutes. Today the session will close at 7:10 because we started at 6:10. I hope that is okay. Right? So once the questions are done, I will do my Shanti Mantra, and after that we can close the session.
If anybody is having any question, kindly unmute yourself and ask the questions.
You don't have to, if you have a disagreement, that's okay. You can challenge, no, I don't agree with this. Or you say, yeah, I did not understand this. That part was not clear. I know that I talked a lot and it's too much blah blah. Probably some of the blah blah went above your head. In that case, if you watch the YouTube video once more, and with a notebook and a pen, whatever comes in your mind that you would like to discuss, you can note it down. And after that, you can send that to Miss Maya, and she will forward it to me, and I will address.
Even you can also put it in a chat box. Whatever.
Yeah, that is also there. No? Yeah. Something comes up, I'll see.
If you have any queries also, you can even email.
If something came up, you don't have to break your head. If something came up in your head during the talk,
yes,
like, that's not okay. We need to discuss this. I'm not sure about this. So try to recollect that, and you can just.
I don't see there is no questions. Can we conclude, Yogeshwarji?
Yeah, sure. So before concluding, I am trying to try to remind one more point. As spiritual aspirants, we are going to face a more and more polarized world, and there are going to be situations which are very nice. It's like this El Nino year that we are having this year. No? Extreme temperatures, extreme rain, complete drop, and extreme heat and cold like that. Society also is becoming extreme. There will be people who are totally in the opposite camp, totally in your camp. And it will be very less and less, few places that let you be and accommodate and very neutral. That real honest neutrality is going to get more and more difficult. So it is very important for all of us to take a stand and stay committed to our stand and not make a compromise. And with those who are in the opposite camp, we can always agree to disagree and move away in maintaining a friendly disagreement. Right? So we don't have to convince everybody, and we don't have to tell everybody that we are convinced. We can always agree to disagree. And whoever cannot do that means they are not mature and they can get lost. That's simple as that. So we'll conclude the class. Om असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा मृतङ्गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ तत्सत्. Thank you. I look forward to inquiries after seeing the YouTube.
Thank you so much, Yogeshwar ji. It was a wonderful session today. We got many insights. And whoever has got overdose, please think about it. Watch the YouTube. If you have any questions, please come up with the questions next Monday. Thank you so much. And meet you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Thank you.